It began as an ordinary autumn night, one that should have passed without anyone remembering it. 15-year-old Evelyn Hartley was a quiet, responsible girl, the kind of teenager every parent trusted. On October 24, 1953, she borrowed her mother's watch, straightened her skirt, and went out to babysit for the Rasmussen family in Crosse, Wisconsin. The job wasn't unusual. Evelyn often babysat for neighbors, family friends, anyone who needed a helping hand. She was dependable, cautious, and respectful. That night she was asked to look after 20-month-old Janice Rasmussen, a toddler who had already been tucked into bed by the time Evelyn arrived. The parents left for a football game, promising to be home before midnight. The neighborhood was safe, the kind where doors were left unlocked and people waved to one another across lawns. Yet within a few hours, that sense of safety would shatter, replaced by a chilling mystery that would haunt the city for decades. At 8:30 p.m., Evelyn called home to let her father know everything was fine. She had promised to check in again later, but that second call never came. By 10:30, her father, Richard Hartley, began pacing. Evelyn wasn't the kind of girl who forgot. She was careful with time, careful with promises. At 11 o'clock, unable to shake the worry crawling up his spine, he drove to the Rasmussen home. When Richard pulled into the driveway, something instantly felt wrong. Lights glowed in the windows. The radio played faint music from inside. But the house itself seemed disturbed, like someone had walked through it with hurried, clumsy steps. He knocked once. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Still no response. Heart racing, he opened the door. The living room looked oddly unsettled. A chair was knocked slightly sideways, a rug ruffled as though someone had tripped. He called Evelyn's name. Silence. Upstairs, Janice still slept peacefully in her crib, untouched, unaware of the storm building downstairs. But Evelyn was gone. Richard checked every room in a rush. In the basement, he found something strange, a window left wide open, the screen removed and bent. The back door was unlocked. He spotted one of Evelyn's shoes lying on the grass outside the window. Her glasses lay broken in the yard. A stool near the hedge had toppled over. It was clear there had been a struggle. Richard sprinted to the nearest phone and called police. Within minutes, officers arrived, their flashlights sweeping across the yard and through the house. They found more unsettling details: footprints in the dirt, trampled grass leading away from the house, and a smear of blood on the neighbor's yard. Evelyn had fought back. She had resisted. But she was gone. By midnight, the quiet neighborhood was alive with searchers. Police, neighbors, and volunteers fanned out with flashlights. Bloodhounds were brought in. The dogs sniffed Evelyn's clothing, then bolted, following her scent down the street. But just 2 blocks away, they stopped, circling in confusion. The trail ended abruptly, as though Evelyn had been forced into a waiting car. Fear gripped Crosse by dawn. Newspapers ran bold headlines: "Babysitter missing, girl vanishes in Crosse." Parents clutched their children tightly. Mothers refused to let their daughters babysit again. The idea that someone could vanish while inside a safe home, while watching a sleeping child, was too terrifying to believe. Police scoured the area for days. Hundreds of volunteers joined the effort. They searched fields, rivers, wooded lots, abandoned houses, and storm drains. They drained ponds and sifted through quarries. Farmers opened their barns. Hunters combed the marshes. Still, no sign of Evelyn. Inside the Rasmussen home, investigators examined every detail. Furniture marks suggested Evelyn had been dragged across the floor. The bent window screen hinted someone had either entered or exited through the basement. Yet no one had seen or heard anything unusual that night. No screams. No strange cars. Nothing. Detectives considered every possibility. Could Evelyn have run away? Her family said no. She was happy at school, deeply close to her parents, and excited about an upcoming choir performance. Could it have been someone she knew? Police interviewed classmates, teachers, neighbors, even relatives. No answers came. And then came the odd tips. A man in the next county claimed he had seen a girl walking along the highway with 2 men late that night. Another said he heard a scream but assumed it was kids playing. Each lead burned out quickly, like a match flickering and then dying in the wind. The weeks turned into months. The searches grew quieter. Families returned to their routines, but the fear never left. Doors were locked now. Windows checked twice. Crosse, once a sleepy Midwest town, had become a place where shadows carried suspicion. For the Hartley family, life never returned to normal. Evelyn's mother, who had lent her the watch that night, couldn't stop replaying the moment she kissed her daughter goodbye. Richard, her father, became restless, driving the roads at night, looking into ditches and fields, hoping for any sign. Yet, the case remained a chilling blank. Then, just as it seemed the trail had gone cold forever, something shocking arrived at the police station. A manila envelope, no return address. Inside, a folded map of Crosse. On it, a red X was drawn deep in the woods on the city's edge. There was also a note written in block letters. "You stopped looking too soon." The chief of police spread the map on his desk, his hands trembling slightly. Could it be a cruel prank? Or was this the first real lead since that night? By noon, a search team was on its way to the marked location. Reporters caught wind of the development. Neighbors whispered. Hope and dread mixed together in equal measure. When officers pushed into the thick woods, their flashlights glinting off damp leaves, the dogs suddenly began to bark wildly. Something was waiting there. Something that would deepen the mystery forever. The woods on the edge of Crosse were damp and silent that morning, the kind of silence that pressed against the ears. Police officers moved slowly through the underbrush, flashlights scanning the ground, dogs barking in frantic bursts. The red X on the mysterious map had led them here, to a patch of trees no more than a mile from the Rasmussen home. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Fallen leaves, broken branches, the ordinary clutter of October. Then one of the dogs began pawing at the soil near an old oak tree. Officers closed in. There, beneath the leaves, they found something that froze them in place, a blood-stained handkerchief. The chief lifted it with gloved hands. The cloth was delicate, patterned with faint flowers, and on one corner were the embroidered initials E.H. It was Evelyn's. Her mother later confirmed it. The discovery reignited the investigation. Reporters swarmed the police station. Families gathered in whispers on porches. For the Hartleys, it was both a spark of hope and a crushing blow. Hope, because maybe Evelyn was still alive somewhere. Crushing, because the handkerchief meant someone had taken her violently, and someone wanted them to know. Over the next days, police uncovered more odd clues scattered in and around the woods. A broken strap that might have been from a shoe. A small smear of blood on a rock. But no sign of Evelyn herself. The note inside the manila envelope now felt less like a tip and more like a taunt. You stopped looking too soon. Whoever had sent it wanted the police to keep searching, and to keep suffering. Detectives turned to suspects. They questioned men who had been seen loitering near the neighborhood in recent weeks. One was a traveling salesman who had knocked on doors that same night. Another was a farmhand who had a record of breaking into homes. All were investigated, interrogated, pressed for answers. Yet none could be linked directly to Evelyn's disappearance. Theories spread like wildfire. Some believed she had been taken by a stranger passing through town, hidden in a car trunk and carried far away. Others whispered that it had to be someone local, someone who knew the area well enough to vanish without being seen. Still others believed the abductor had inside knowledge of the Hartleys or the Rasmussens. Each theory was darker than the last. But the strangest part remained the silence. No ransom note came. No phone calls. No demands. Just the eerie handkerchief and the cryptic map. It was almost as if the abductor wanted attention not for money or gain, but simply for the power of keeping Evelyn hidden. As weeks turned into months, the search widened. Posters with Evelyn's face were pinned to telephone poles. Farmers found themselves questioned. Rivers were dragged. Wells were inspected. Yet each effort ended the same way. No trace. The Hartleys refused to give up. Evelyn's father drove night after night, scanning country roads, stopping at barns and sheds, convinced that somewhere out there his daughter was waiting. Her mother sat by the phone, listening to the silence, praying it would ring. In January 1954, a chilling new lead emerged. A farmer just outside Crosse reported seeing a car parked by his fields the night Evelyn vanished. He remembered it because the driver left quickly when he approached. Police traced the tracks back toward town, but they led to a dead end on the main highway. It was yet another road that went nowhere. The case began to take a toll on the city itself. Parents set stricter curfews. Churches held vigils. Schools taught safety lessons. Babysitting, once seen as harmless teenage work, became something girls feared to do. La Crosse was no longer safe, not in memory, not in truth. And then came the strangest twist yet. In the summer of 1954, months after Evelyn had vanished, another envelope appeared at the police station. This time it contained only a scrap of fabric, dark, torn, and stiff with dried blood. Alongside it was a single Polaroid photograph. The image was blurry, but in the corner, against a wall, lay what appeared to be a shoe. A shoe that matched the pair Evelyn had been wearing that October night. The note that came with it was short. Just 2 words, printed carefully in block letters. "Still waiting." The chief slammed the photo onto his desk in anger. Detectives argued over whether it was genuine or a cruel prank. But for the Hartleys, it was like the wound had reopened. They clung to the possibility that it meant Evelyn was alive. Others feared it meant something far darker. Leads poured in from across the Midwest. Sightings of girls who resembled Evelyn. Rumors of abandoned barns with strange markings. Reports of strangers asking about babysitters in nearby towns. Each was investigated. Each led to nothing. Years began to pass. The case grew colder with every season. The Hartleys aged under the weight of their loss. The Rasmussen family moved away, unable to live in the house where it happened. Yet the legend of Evelyn Hartley, the babysitter who vanished without a trace, only grew. Even decades later, fragments of the case still surfaced. In the 1970s, convicted killers in other states were questioned, but none confessed. In the 1990s, new DNA testing was applied to the handkerchief, but results were inconclusive. Each generation hoped for answers, and each was left with only questions. To this day, Evelyn Hartley's fate remains unknown. No body was ever found. No one was ever charged. What remains are the eerie fragments, her broken glasses, her scattered shoes, the handkerchief with her initials, and the haunting notes that seemed to come from someone who wanted to remind the world that she was still missing. And the final cruel mystery, the photograph with the shoe, marked, "Still waiting." Was Evelyn alive when it was sent? Or had someone staged it to deepen the fear? No one could ever prove it either way. The case endures as one of America's darkest unsolved babysitter mysteries, a story that shook a small town and left behind questions that echo even now. And perhaps the most chilling thought is this: somewhere out there, the person who took Evelyn may have walked free, smiling to themselves as the world kept asking, "Where did Evelyn Hartley go?"